Hey NFL fans, if you did not already know, we have a bunch of different team channels here at Chat Sports, including one for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, coming up next is one of those 49ers videos that we think you guys are going to like. But if you're not a Niners fan, go ahead and shout out your favorite team in the comments section. Maybe you can speak it into existence, your favorite team being the next channel here at Chat Sports.
Hey 49ers fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Chat Sports, and today, let's take a look at the biggest needs the 49ers have in this year's NFL Draft. We'll start from need number 5 all the way down to need number 1. Now, we've talked about this before on the channel, but needs are changing after free agency, after recent news. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in, starting with number 5, and that has to be safety. So again, starting at 5, going all the way down to the number 1 need in the NFL Draft, just a little bit later on in this video. 5 is safety. Now, let me just say this. Niners don't have a ton of needs, right? You could argue they only have 3 big needs, but you got to get to 5 here for this video, and so we start with safety, and you can make an argument for it. Jaquiski Tartt is entering the final year of his deal, meaning San Francisco could be without a safety going into the 2021 season, so if one is there, maybe you go ahead and grab him. Jimmy Ward just re-signed, which is true, but it's only for 3 years. So there is an argument that maybe you want to go ahead and get a safety of the future in this year's draft. Maybe not in the first round, maybe in the later rounds, maybe if they trade back, these are options the 49ers could go ahead and have. There will be some good safeties there, though, at number 31 overall, which we'll talk about here in just a second. And, you know, maybe Grant Delpit, people said he's the best safety in the draft. Is he? That's up for debate right now. But as you go back to Jaquiski Tartt, his 2019 season was good, I guess we say. It wasn't great. It wasn't eye-popping. It wasn't as good as Jimmy Ward's. He only played in 69% of all the defensive snaps, but still is a serviceable level safety for the 49ers. Probably the weakest link in the secondary, in my opinion, which is why you probably don't re-sign him after the 2020 season. You need to go ahead and get somebody either now or in the future. The safety depth chart, or I should say, yeah, overall the safety depth chart is not bad. Ward obviously is your number 1 guy. Tartt is going to play the other safety. Tavares Moore is good and probably could have replaced Jimmy Ward if he would have walked in free agency and I guess could fill in for Tartt. But then you have a guy like Marcel Harris, who we all know is not going to try and see the field. They hope he doesn't have to see the field at any point during this year. So safety, again, is not a weak point of the Niners by any means, but it's definitely not a strength right now besides Jimmy Ward. Now, only 2 safeties play in the field at one time, as we all know. That's why it's number 5 here on this list. If they grabbed one at number 31 overall, Delpit, A.J. McKinney will go and throw up the top 4 safeties in this draft. If they got Xavier McKinney or Grant Delpit or even Kyle Duggar at number 31 overall, it would make sense because, again, they're trying to plan for the future. They're trying to go ahead and kind of tell you, hey, Tartt's not a long-term guy. We want to get somebody who's younger and better, and these would be your options. But that's why we start at number 5 and we work our way up because, again, I would rather get the other needs that we're going to talk about here in a second over a safety in the first round. But if they were to draft one, especially at number 31 overall, it would not be the end of the world because, again, Tartt is going to be a free agent after this year. You might not want to re-sign him. Get younger, get better. That could be an option for our 49ers. What is the biggest draft need for our 49ers? Very curious what you guys think is the number 1 overall need for San Francisco, whether it's safety, whether it's receiver, O-line, corner, whatever it is. Give me a follow on Twitter at RealThomasMott after you comment your draft need down below, and you follow me on Twitter, you can find out my biggest draft need for the 49ers over there. Trying to get 2,000 followers on my Twitter account, so go ahead and give me a follow at RealThomasMott. Number 4. Cornerback. Yes, cornerback is still a need, and cornerback is still a very real possibility for our 49ers in the first round and in the draft at any point. They might not trust Emmanuel Moseley. Like, that's the big interesting factor of this draft. If they go corner in the first round, it shows they do not trust Emmanuel Moseley, who, of course, filled in for Ahkello Witherspoon and played in the postseason and was pretty good, but not, I would say, great in terms of a long-term solution for the 49ers, unless he balls out this year, which go ahead and do. I'd love if you do that, but it's not a guarantee. Richard Sherman, he's 32 years old, and again, that number 31 overall pick, if it's not used for safety, it could be used for a cornerback. We talked about Moseley, 50 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 1 interception, 8 passes defended. He filled in for Ahkello Witherspoon, filled in very, very well. He should be the starting cornerback for our 49ers entering into the 2020 season, but again, if they don't trust him, if they think some of the other cornerbacks are better, then they might go ahead and draft somebody in the early stages of the NFL draft, because your depth chart besides Sherman Mosley, Witherspoon, I guess, is your number 3, but they don't trust Killer Witherspoon at all. And K'Wan Williams is a corner, but he's more of a slot corner. He's not going to be playing on the outside. Your draft corners are listed below in terms of ranking. Jeffrey Okudah, obviously number 1. He's going to be a top 10 pick out of Ohio State. He probably won't be there at number 13 overall, but we know C.J. Henderson will. We know Damon Arnett, and we know Trayvon Diggs out of Alabama will be as well. They could surprise everybody and go C.J. Henderson at number 13 and go, listen, we want a corner of the future. He'll replace Sherman whenever Sherman retires. We want to go ahead and get this guy, although you can argue they would rather go wide receiver or O-line, which we'll talk about here in a second. But Okudah most likely not going to be on the draft board, so that's why we throw up C.J. Henderson, Damon Arnett, and Trayvon Diggs. Options there, if not at 13, then at number 31 for sure. Also, as we just said, I talk 49ers all the time on my Twitter handle, @RealThomasMott. Give me a follow. I'm like 200 followers away from 2,000 followers on Twitter. So right now, after this video, just go to Twitter, twitter.com, @RealThomasMott. Give me a follow. You can also interact and DM with me. We can talk about the 49ers, kind of you and me privately through my DMs. I like to do that with my fans as well. So go ahead and check that out and give me a follow after this video. Number 3 on our top 5 draft needs for the 49ers is defensive line, more specifically defensive tackle. As we all know, the 49ers now have a hole at deep tackle after losing Deforest Buckner via the trade, and they could turn right around and use number 13 overall to get his replacement, as there are some good ones we'll talk about in a second. Right now, Solomon Thomas is listed as your starting defensive tackle, but I don't think any of us really trust Solomon Thomas to be a legitimate starter playing starter snaps at defensive tackle for the 49ers. Buckner last year will throw up his stats. Here's what you're missing. Here's why this is number 3 on our list of biggest needs for the 49ers in the draft, because he's losing, 62 tackles, you're losing 14 quarterback hits, 7.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. We know Solomon Thomas is not going to do that. Now, can the combination of Thomas and Street and DJ Jones and Julian Taylor make up for that? Maybe, but I just don't see the impact being anywhere close to DeForest Buckner. That's why the Colts gave away number 13 overall. That's why the Colts immediately re-signed him to a massive deal that San Francisco had no way of matching. So it's not a massive need in terms of the number 1 overall need, because your D-line is still going to dominate, but don't be surprised. And again, NBC Sports in the Bay Area mentioned this the other day. Don't be surprised if the 49ers just go, heck, let's just take a D tackle at number 13 overall, whether it's Derek Brown if he falls from Auburn, Javon Kinlaw from USC, even like a Ross Blacklock from TCU later on in the NFL draft could be an option. They might want to go ahead and just fill the one hole on the D-line early, get that out of the way, and move on by continuing to have the best defensive front in the National Football League. We will still dominate without a true starting defensive tackle from the NFL draft, because of course you have Ford and you have Bosa and you have Buckner. But if you want to just make sure that your defensive line is going to be elite for the next 5 to 10 years, if Derek Brown from Auburn falls, I would almost guarantee if he's there at number 13 overall, they would take him over a wide receiver, just because of how elite Derek Brown is. Brown's supposed to be a top 10 pick. If he's not, if he falls, I think there's a very real possibility San Francisco goes with him at number 13 overall. Kinlaw will be there at number 13 out of USC. He is the second best D tackle in the draft. I just don't see San Francisco taking him over their favorite wide receiver if the receiver is there at number 13 as well. Also, you guys want to get some sweet 49ers gear? We always have great deals on 49ers authentic gear. You guys see it on your screen right now. Chatsports.com/49draft. Link in the description. And not only does it have the deal you see on your screen right now, there are a ton of other deals as well. Just follow the link in the description, chatsports.com/49draft. That way you are ready and all geared up. Even though you're in lockdown, you want to flex to your neighbors like from your front porch, waving to them at a socially acceptable distance. Rock your 49ers gear. Get it at chatsports.com/49draft. Final 2, I should say the top 2 biggest draft needs of our 49ers. These ones are easy, but it's going to be in an order that might surprise you. Starting at number 2, this is the second biggest need for our 49ers. It is wide receiver. Wide receiver is not the number 1 need, in my opinion. I'll tell you what number 1 is here in a second, but wide receiver is up there. It is need number 2. They've got to get a wide receiver in this draft, because they lost a wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders, to the Saints, and this is the best wide receiver draft class we've seen in a very, very long time. I know we said if Derek Brown is there at number 13 overall, maybe a C.J. Henderson in the corner, I'll be shocked if the 49ers do not go wide receiver at number 13 overall. Your best receiver right now on the roster is Deebo Samuel, who we all know was great last year, but still, 57 catches, 802 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That's not number one receiver type stats. He needs help. Now, he has help in terms of Jalen Hurd comes back. They re-signed Kendrick Bourne, Trent Taylor as well. It's not a garbage wide receiver group, but it's not an elite wide receiver group by any means, which is why we all think, and a lot of you are probably saying, Thomas, wide receiver's got to be number one right now. Well, we'll talk about number one in a second, but wide receiver is still a massive need. We've said this ad nauseum here in the channel. I love CeeDee Lamb. He's my number one choice at 13 overall. Judy is a real option. I think Henry Ruggs, real option as well. And even a Justin Jefferson out of LSU, if his draft stock continues to rise as it is doing after catching 18 touchdowns and 111 catches overall from Joe Burrow last year. These are all guys that are going to be options, all guys the 49ers have talked to, have interviewed, have Skyped with, Zoom with, whatever the heck they're doing right now for the NFL draft. It's the number 2 need. It's wide receiver. I think they're probably going to go wide receiver at number 13 overall, but we're going to get to number 1 here in a second. But I'm curious, which wide receiver would you guys draft? Type L down below for Lamb, type J down below for Judy, type O for other if you like Ruggs or you like Jefferson or T. Higgins or whoever the heck you guys like in this year's NFL draft. There are a ton of good ones. No wrong answers in the comment section right now. Okay, bear with me here. The number 1 need has changed. It was wide receiver for a long, long time. It is now offensive line. Yes, you heard me right. Now, I know you're saying, Thomas, we need a wide receiver. You got to make sure you help out Jimmy Garoppolo, and the wide receiver is going to open up the run game. Yes, that's all true, but O-line has become more of a need after the recent report we talked about yesterday that Joe Staley is a 50-50 chance to go ahead and retire before the start of this year. He's 36 years old. And Justin Skule is not ready to be the starting left tackle, in my opinion. He was a late-round draft pick, obviously, in terms of the last year's draft, and I could really see San Francisco going, guys, I know we want a wide receiver at number 13, but we can get one at number 31 overall. Let's spend number 13 on an offensive lineman to shore up the Joe Staley hole that will either be left right now in terms of the 2020 season, or he'll play 1 more year and then retire. There's no way that Justin Skule is going to go ahead and play 2 more years with San Francisco. I just don't see it happening. So I think San Francisco, after knowing that Staley is that Joe Staley is a 50-50 chance to go ahead and retire, they might want to go ahead and get his replacement right now. Staley's been great. He's been 13 years with the 49ers. He's been a perennial Pro Bowler. He's been a real staple at the left guard spot, but has had injuries recently, missed multiple games last year, and your tackle depth chart behind him with Justin Skule and Sean Coleman is not good. Like, Justin Skule is a serviceable level backup who we hope can take the next step, but is a 5th-round draft pick. We're not expecting anything special out of him in terms of being the starting left tackle for Jimmy Garoppolo. Your top 4 draft tackle, talked about them the other day. Jedrick Wills out of Bama, Tristan Wirfs out of Iowa, Mekhi Becton out of Louisville, and Andrew Thomas out of UGA. 3 of those will probably go inside the top 15. You could get 4 inside the top 20. Any of them would be a very good fit to learn under Joe Staley if he stays for 1 more year. That way, when Staley retires, you don't have a scenario where Jimmy Garoppolo is getting pounded from the left side because he doesn't have a true left tackle to go ahead and protect him. The Niners don't have a lot of holes. Like, the Niners don't have a lot of needs. This video could have been the 2 main needs, meaning wide receiver and offensive line, but I wanted to share the other needs, obviously, because they could use a cornerback, they could use a safety, they could use a defensive tackle. But when we talk about the biggest need going forward, if you cannot protect Jimmy Garoppolo, if you cannot run the football via creating big holes for Raheem Mostert, you are going to have a significantly worse football team than what you did last year. They're still great on the defensive line. They're still great at corner. They're still great at safety. You could skip those this draft and still be elite. If you miss out an offensive lineman or a wide receiver in this year's draft, and Joe Staley retires before the season, the Niners will have a big hole on their hands they will not be able to fill. That's why number 1 has got to be the offensive line. If you disagree, just let me know in the comment section. I read all of the comments. As you guys all know, I like your comments. I comment back. We're talking back and forth here on the channel. I'll finish with this. Who's your favorite player in this year's draft? Like, overall, if you had to pick one player, it doesn't matter who your team is or what position, who's your favorite player overall? I'll tell you, mine is on my Twitter account as well, so give me a follow. But give me a comment down below on who your favorite player is overall in this draft. There you go. All the time we have for today on the 49ers Report. Be sure to subscribe down below. That way we can get it to 20,000 subscribers, and that way you're notified whenever we drop the latest videos here on the 49ers Report. We're churning out as many as we can as the draft. The only real thing going on in the world of sports right now, and it's the biggest thing in terms of the most important thing for our 49ers to get it right. That way we have multiple Super Bowl successes going forward throughout the 2020, 2021 seasons, and of course beyond, hopefully for many, many years to come. All the time we have for today, the 49ers Report. I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.